All right, good afternoon. I don't have to tell you, but I should tell those people online that at 1 p.m. there will be a briefing here by Ambassador Yamazaki Kazuyuki, the permanent representative of Japan and the president of the Security Council for the month of March. He will, of course, be briefing you on the program of work for the month of March. There will be no WebEx connection for that briefing, but you can follow it on YouTube or on the UN webcast. A couple of programming notes for Monday. At 2 p.m., we expect Premila Patton, the Special Representative of the Secretary General on Sexual Violence in Conflict, to be here in this room to brief you on her recent visit to Israel and the occupied West Bank, including her key findings and recommendations. That'll be at 2 p.m. We will perhaps have a press briefing by Philippe Lazzarini at the end of the day on Monday, following the General Assembly special session, but we will confirm that for you later today or tomorrow, or whenever we can. Turning to the Secretary General this morning, he was Kingstown in Saint Vincent and the Grenadines. He spoke at the opening of the summit of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, otherwise known as CELAC. He paid tribute to the resilience shown by the people of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines a few years ago in the aftermath of the devastating eruption of the Soufrière volcano. The Secretary General praised the solidarity shown in the region to help those impacted. We need that spirit now more than ever, he said. The Secretary General also outlined 4 areas in which solidarity is needed, which include solidarity for peace and security, sustainable development, social cohesion, and addressing the climate crisis. Yesterday, the Secretary General met with Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Following their meeting, they held a press encounter in which the Secretary General praised Latin America and the Caribbean as a continent, an area of peace, and commended its commitment to finding solutions to the conflicts that arise, including the one going on in Haiti. Those remarks were shared with you, and this afternoon he will be meeting with various leaders on the margins of the summit. Tomorrow, the Secretary General will visit an area impacted by the volcanic eruption and see the progress made in reconstruction in this effort, which includes work and support by the United Nations team there. Our Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohammed, will travel to the Middle East region to advance action on the Sustainable Development Goals following the SDG Summit last year and the lead up to the Summit of the Future. Ms. Mohammed will visit the state of Kuwait at the invitation of the government to meet with the Kuwaiti leadership, women leaders and from different walks of life, as well as interaction with youth and other key stakeholders. Afterwards, she will be in Lebanon, where she will preside at the opening of the Arab Regional Forum on Sustainable Development, engage with the UN's Regional Coordination Mechanism, meet with UN resident coordinators from the region and senior government officials and other stakeholders. Before coming back to us here in New York, Amina Mohammed will stop briefly in the United Arab Emirates, where she will meet with senior government officials. She'll be back here on March 7th. Turning to the situation in the Middle East, I can tell you that the Secretary General welcomes the decision taken today by the European Commission to imminently release 50 million euros to UNRWA. This comes at a critical time, and our understanding is that this is part of the 82 million euros of aid to be implemented through UNRWA this year. The Secretary General very much hopes that other donors will follow suit and support UNRWA. Mr. Lazzarini, the Commissioner General of UNRWA, also welcomed the decision taken by the European Union Commission and said the funds will support the agency's efforts to maintain life-saving essential services for Palestine refugees across the region. And today, update from our colleagues in the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. They tell us that along with OCHA staff, but also with the World Health Organization and UNICEF, a team visited the Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. They brought with them medicines, vaccines, and fuel to help ensure that the medical facility remains functioning. The team also met with people who were among those injured yesterday while seeking life-saving aid in an area west of Gaza City. Shifa Hospital has reportedly admitted more than 700 people who were injured yesterday, about 200 of whom are still being hospitalized. By the time the team was visiting the hospital staff told them they had received the bodies of more than 70 people who were killed yesterday. This is the first time that we've had a UN convoy able to deliver aid into northern Gaza in over 1 week. And for those of you who are tracking Sigrid Kaag's movement, I can tell you she's just completed a 3-day visit to Israel and to Palestine, during which she met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as President Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinian Authority. While in Israel, she also met with other members of the War Cabinet and also met with President Herzog. In her meetings, she discussed the implementation of Security Council Resolution 2720 and emphasized the urgency of increasing the volume of aid to Gaza to address the needs of the civilian population. If I could just ask the camera crews to wait on the setup until we're done. Thank you. Turning to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs is warning us again about the deteriorating security situation and humanitarian situation in North Kivu, in the eastern part of the country. Since early February, more than 215,000 people have fled towards Goma, which is now hosting some 630,000 men, women, and children who have been displaced due to the insecurity. Since early, ongoing clashes have also impacted civilians and civilian infrastructure. According to humanitarian partners, at least 7 health facilities have been looted, 7 schools damaged by bombing since early January. Fighting is disrupting aid delivery with several roads cut off. Some partners have withdrawn from high-risk areas like the Masisi territory. On the 26th of February, an aid organization suspended medical care for over 20,000 people due to renewed clashes in Rutshuru territory, which is in North Kivu. Humanitarians are continuing to push for unimpeded access to everyone that needs our support. And in Zambia, where the government has declared an emergency due to the drought, I can tell you that the United Nations system is supporting the government-led response as weather extremes, economic hardship, and a cholera outbreak fuel a worsening humanitarian crisis. Our colleagues at OCHA and the UN team in Zambia are working to scale up our response over the next 9 months, a plan that will urgently require $39 million in funding. UN agencies aim to provide emergency cash transfers to some 475,000 people facing high levels of food insecurity in more than a dozen districts in the country. These households will also receive drought-tolerant crop varieties and other critical agricultural support meant to help farmers maintain their livelihoods and prevent hunger-fueled migration. More than 2 million people, that's 21% of Zambia's population, are estimated to be facing high level of food insecurity this year alone. And in Mozambique, colleagues at UNHCR today said they are deeply concerned about the escalating humanitarian crisis in the Cabo Delgado region of Mozambique. The UN Refugee Agency notes that since the latest outbreak of violence and attacks on civilians at the beginning of February, more than 70,000 people have been forcibly displaced across the region. According to the agency, nearly 90% of those people displaced are women, many of them pregnant, people with disabilities, and the elderly. More than half of the newly displaced people are children. UNHCR warns that this rampant destruction has further worsened the already dire humanitarian situation in Mozambique, where over 709,000 people remain internally displaced due to the violence perpetrated by non-state armed group, and as well as the impact of the ongoing climate crisis. UNHCR and other partners are providing core relief items. Additional interventions are being planned and discussed with local authorities. But as you can imagine, lack of funding is hampering our ability to respond. two international days. Today is Zero Discrimination Day, established by UNAIDS 10 years ago to advance equality and fairness for everyone, regardless of gender, age, sexuality, ethnicity, or HIV status. The theme for this year is, quote, to protect everyone's health, protect everyone's rights. And today is one of my favorite days. It is World Seagrass Day. Yeah. I love seagrass. Seagrass is very much underappreciated. Seagrasses are marine flowering plants, one of the most widespread coastal habitat on Earth, storing up to 18% of the world's oceanic carbon. Well, you should eat more, Benny. You should eat more of it. You teed me up, sorry. Sorry, and I forgot an important senior personnel appointment. Today, the Secretary General has appointed Stephanie Khoury of the United States as his Deputy Special Representative for Political Affairs for Libya in the UN Support Mission for Libya, or UNSMIL. She succeeds Resident Zenenga of Zimbabwe, to whom the Secretary General is grateful for all his service to the people of Libya. Ms. Khoury brings to the position over 30 years of experience in supporting political processes, peace talks, mediation, conflict, and post-conflict, including in the Middle East, and over 15 years with the UN in Iraq, in Lebanon, Libya, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. We congratulate our good friend, Stephanie. Edie, and then I'll go to Benny to make up for it.
Thank you, Steph. Two questions. First, does the Secretary General have any statement on the funeral and burial of Alexei Navalny?
No particular statement. I mean, from what we've seen, everything seems to have gone peacefully, which is all that one can help when one is burying someone.
And secondly, a doctor at Al-Auda Hospital said today that 80% of the wounds at his hospital from the convoy were from gunfire. You were talking earlier about a UN team that was at Al-Shifa. Can you tell us whether the team asked about how patients there were wounded and the 70 bodies that they received? Did they have gunshot wounds as well?
I'm not aware that our team examined the bodies of people who were killed. My understanding from what they saw in terms of the patients who were alive getting treatment is that there was a large number of gunshot wounds as well. Benny.
Yeah, actually on the same topic.
Can you put your microphone a little closer?
Sorry. On the same topic, not hair, but did you glean? Has the UN been able to glean any more information than we did yesterday from things like aerial and ground photography that were widely distributed as to what was the cause of the?
No, we've not done any forensics. We've just seen what we've seen in the media report, and all I can say is that what our colleagues saw from just speaking to a number of individuals at the hospital.
Is there any plan to do any forensic?
Well, there would need to be, as I think the Secretary General said himself yesterday, there needs to be an independent and credible investigation into what happened. Just as there will need to be accountability for everything that's happened since October 7th.
Right, and when you say gunshot wounds, does that indicate gunshots from one side or another?
It indicates people being wounded by gunshot.
And one more question, please bear with me, on a separate topic. Security Council Resolution what was it? 20?
There are a lot of them.
Yeah, the last one on Gaza.
Yeah, 2720, yeah.
2720, that's right. Called for an immediate and unconditional release of the hostages. Is the unconditional part still valid as far as the Secretary General is concerned? Because
The Secretary General, I think, has been very consistent in calling for an unconditional release of all the hostages. And I think from the beginning, he was listing things that are necessary, none of which should be conditioned on the other. Deji.
Yes, a follow-up on that. It's been reported that Hamas warned that the incident we're talking yesterday might lead to the failure of the negotiation of ceasefire and hostage releasing. Any reaction from the Secretary General on
Listen,
this?
I mean, it should be obvious to anyone that as long as the fighting continues, the violence continues, that things are not getting any simpler. Our fervent hope is that all those who are negotiating do not give up hope.
Yes, yesterday, the IDF spokesperson, Hagari, when explaining from the Israelis' point of view on this thing, he said, and I quote, "We recognize the suffering of innocent Gazans and remain committed to expanding our humanitarian efforts." So on one hand, IDF is the one to destroy all those buildings and make those people displaced. On the other hand, they said they are going to expand their humanitarian efforts. I just want to know what would the UN's thought on this kind of controversy
Listen,
or
I have-
hypocrisy?
I have trouble enough explaining what I say, right? I'm not going to analyze what other spokespeople say. You know very well what we want to see. We want to see an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. We want to see the unconditional immediate release of all the hostages. We want to see greater humanitarian access. These are all things that we want to see. We will continue to say that. Linda.
Thank you, Steph. Going back to the issue of yesterday's killings, you mentioned and we've read that the SG said that there should be an independent review. I was just wondering if he's going to get involved in terms of appointing an independent group, as he's done with UNRWA.
In order to investigate such an incident, we would need some type of a mandate. Gabriel.
Thank you, Steph. More on that. Do you know? Can you tell us how long that UN team spent at Al Shifa? Any more details on that?
No, I mean they spent a few hours. They didn't. I mean, I spoke to a colleague in Jerusalem just before coming here. They did not overnight, and there's no plan. So they spent as much time as they could. I'll try to see how many hours it was.
And was this pre-planned or was this in response to yesterday?
That's a very valid question. I don't know.
Okay,
I don't
and
know. But what I do know is that we've been trying to get to the north for a long
Sure.
time. We've been trying to get to Shifa Hospital for a long time. Whether or not this particular convoy was in reaction to what happened yesterday, I don't know. But our efforts to get to Shifa Hospital have been ongoing.
And does this mean that this will be part of an ongoing reestablishing aid delivery back to northern
Well, I
Gaza,
mean,
or is this a one-off?
it has not been for lack of trying on our part,
Sure, we
right?
know, yeah.
I mean, this was obviously coordinated and deconflicted with the Israeli authorities. We've been trying to do that every day, all the time. We have not been successful every day, all the time.
Okay, just a couple more, just factual points. You said that 200 are still in the hospital. That's what your team that was there is reporting back, correct?
Yes, I mean, what I said is,
That's firsthand information from your team.
that's correct.
Okay, all right,
That's
it's not, okay. And that 70 were killed, that also is firsthand info from your team, right? That's what they were able to confirm?
I mean, let me say, the information that that I've shared, and I will read it again so I'm not completely Yes, I mean, this is what they were able to, this is what they reported back to headquarters, so to speak.
Okay, do you think we could get a briefing perhaps with one of the people?
We will ask.
Thank you, Steph.
Okay. Maggie and then Nizar, who I recognize.
Just a follow-up on Ms. Patton's presser. You mentioned about a week ago that she might have a report also. Is that something we're going to see before the presser?
You will have more, we will share with you later today or Monday morning what more information will be shared with you prior to the briefing, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And then on Haiti, Kenya and Haiti signed their agreement, I believe, yesterday. But apparently, a gang leader from G9 in Haiti says they won't let the prime minister come back to the country, and they're starting a revolution to overhaul the government. There were shootouts, and the airport was closed yesterday, so violence is up.
I mean,
Do you have response?
We're very concerned about the uptick of violence and the deteriorating situation that we've seen in Haiti. It's yet another reason why we want member states to work quickly towards the support and deployment of the multinational security support mission. From the contacts I had in Haiti this morning, the situation appeared to be a little calmer today than it was in the last 48 hours. I mean, we clearly need urgent action on the support mission. We need urgent action on financing and whatever other support for the support mission to tackle the security situation in Haiti. I mean, we have been talking for months now about how civilians in Haiti and in Port-au-Prince are basically trapped, right, by gang violence. I mean, schools are closed, hospitals are not functioning, people's lives have been, people are suffering on a daily basis. Nizar.
Thank you, Stefan. My question is regarding our Shifa hospital. The quantities of medicine aid sent to the hospital, how much will it last? And is it a beginning of further the convoys
Well, I mean,
to reach that?
It's hard to say how long it will last because obviously the time that medicine stocks last depends on the number of patients, right? So it is a drop in the bucket, right? But it is an essential drop in the bucket. We will continue to do whatever we can to get to Shifa Hospital, to get to all the other hospitals, to get to people in northern Gaza. We do not have control of the situation on the ground. We operate in the environment in which we operate in, and I can tell you my colleagues, our Palestinian colleagues, our international colleagues on the ground do their utmost and put their lives at risk to deliver the aid they can deliver.
One follow-up. Today, Hamas announced that 3 of the prisoners they were killed by Israeli bombardment. And this also, this takes a large number of many of them have been killed. Does the Secretary General call for unconditional release of children imprisoned by Israel in exchange for?
We are not negotiators in any exchange. We called for the unconditional release of all the hostages held in Gaza. We have spoken for a long time here about the children who have been detained in the prison system in Israel, and we have always called for their release.
Unconditional release.
We've called for their release, yes. Amélie and then Jordan.
Thanks, Steph. I have a question about Chad. The main opposition leader was killed yesterday ahead of the election, and his party just accused the soldiers of having executed him. So do you have any reaction or call for an investigation about what happened, and are you worried about the
Yes,
election
I mean,
coming?
we're watching the situation very closely. We are concerned about the violence, about the killing that you're referring to. It's very important that there be calm, that there be restraint ahead of the first round of presidential elections on May 6th. It's important that people respect the rule of law and that nothing be done that would make matters even more difficult. And I can tell you that our representative for Central Africa, Mr. Abari, remains engaged with all Chadian stakeholders during this phase of the political transition. Yes, Jordan.
Thank you, and have a blessed Friday. I have two questions, one on UNRWA and the other one on OIOS, also UNRWA. UNRWA funding, the 50 million euro, do you know how long can it stay and for operational
Well, it helps us
purposes?
extend. I mean, I think my understanding is we were okay probably through March. The February salaries have been paid. It will help move forward, but we need more funding.
Last month, the SG met with what you call them, funders, the country, the donors, rather.
Yeah.
Can you tell us, like, did they promise that they will resume based on the allegations situation, or?
I mean, not to repeat myself, but I challenged enough to speak on behalf of one person. I will not speak on behalf of the donors or other member states. The Secretary General has been very clear in his appeal for donors to return and to halt the suspension of their payments, and for new donors to come to the support of UNRWA.
What happened in that meeting last month
you have
between
to
the
ask.
SG?
I mean, you have
the
to
SG. I'm asking about the SG.
You have to ask those member states who were there.
I'm asking about the SG.
Well, I just told you what the SG said.
Okay, so now, is Mr. Laziani going to meet on Monday with the SG?
Is he going to meet with the SG?
Yeah.
I don't know. Depends on their schedule. But Mr. Lazzaroni will be here on Monday. The Secretary General is returning on Monday. We will let you know if they actually meet.
And on OIOS, last question. OIOS, do you think they are they capable, the team, to distinguish or to between artificial information that they might be, if this is like organic or true information
I have full confidence in their capacity to do their job. No, yes.
Last, the SG appointed a team 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And I believe that they submitted a report, and you gave us the link. And are they going to meet again, or?
I think you're getting confused. There's an OIOS investigation.
No, I'm not talking about OIS. I'm talking artificial information
Oh,
team.
artificial intelligence. Yes,
Yeah,
there will be
sure.
some. Well, I'll get back to you on that. Abdelhamid, and then.
Thank you, Stefan. The situation as it looks in Gaza now, children are dying of famine and their parents are hunted by Israeli IDF if they go to get food. So the massacre is continuing and the UN cannot do anything. Why the UN cannot protect those trucks when they come in to deliver humanitarian aid, so the humanitarian aid can reach the people?
Abdelhamid, first of all, I think when you say the UN is not doing anything, I think you have, guys, please, Vladimir, please, you guys have to, when you say the UN is not doing anything, I just told you what the UN is doing, what staff that work for the Secretary, that work for UNRWA are doing, right? They are doing whatever they are humanly possible to get help to those who need it. We do not, the operation in Gaza is not a peacekeeping mission. It is not in the Congo where we have peacekeepers who can escort humanitarian convoys. We relied on a police service from the authorities in Gaza to help escort those trucks. That no longer exists. We're trying to get humanitarian convoys moving in the middle of a war zone, putting ourselves at risk, and obviously also, sadly, putting those who receive the aid at risk.
Talking about the police, Stefan, Israel accuses the police force that it's pro-Hamas, so they are it's a justification to hunt them down and kill them and kill the public with them, the people there. What is your analysis of the police?
Our analysis
Do they have
is that
the
our
right?
analysis is that there is a breakdown of law and order in Gaza, which it makes our life, not to mention the life of the Gazans, that much more challenging, to say the least.
One
Senor.
more question.
Yes, and then we have to go because our
Yeah, sorry. So the UN was fast to investigate the allegations against 12 staff of UNRWA. They immediately designated OIS to investigate it. But when there is a massacre of this magnitude, then it's so difficult.
Abdelhamid, let me be honest. You've worked at the UN for a long time, right?
I know.
Right, okay. So you know very well that there's a difference between any organization being able to investigate and look into the conduct of its own staff, or the UN being able to mount go ahead, go right in front of the camera, or the UN being able to do a forensic investigation in the middle of a war zone. Senor.
Steph, will the Secretary General speak on the General Assembly on Monday?
No.
And my colleague has the same question, but I think he will try to meet Mr. Lazzarini
I mean, obviously,
in any moment.
Mr. Lazzarini works for the Secretary General. I'm sure at some point he will meet with his boss. They talk on the phone quite often. That's how it's done. Alan, and then Vladimir.
Thank you, Stefan. Russian media are discussing today the leakage of one record of the conversation between four high-ranking Germany military officials who were discussed. By the way, the conversation was on February 19th. So they were discussing the hit on Crimean Bridge by Taurus missiles. What are your comment on this? How close is the Ukrainian conflict to the Third World War? I mean,
the only leaked conversation I will comment on are those that involve the Secretary General. I have no way of commenting on other leaked conversations. Volodymyr.
Thank you, Stefan. Turning to the peaceful funeral of Navalny, do you have any words of support for the people in Russia who, like the UN, calling for the withdrawal of Russian troops from Ukraine and oppose the war?
The Secretary General has been consistent from day one for calling to an end to the conflict, for an end of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. He has been calling for peace in line with Ukraine's territorial integrity, in line with General Assembly resolutions. Okay, I will go and get the PR of Japan.